together 13-3 on page 391 of your textbook. If I were you, I would get your textbook out and I would pause this thing and I would do the following while it paused. For each column in the work together directions, total earnings, federal income tax withheld, employee Social Security tax withheld, and employee Medicare tax withheld. Those 4 columns, I would add those columns up and see what you get, and then start this video again. Okay, I assume you added those columns. You should have gotten 35,640 for total earnings. You should have gotten 2,144 for FIT. For Social Security, you should have gotten 2209.68. And for Medicare, you should have gotten 516.78. So that's these 4 columns all added up. So it says to prepare the 941 for concept designs for the first quarter of the current year. It gives you the company address, its employer identification number, which is just like a Social Security number for a person. For an employer, it's an EIN, an employer identification number, and the company has 8 employees. So let's try to fill this out, knowing that we're going to need to use these as well as those totals you just did. So starting with the employer identification number. That is 70-841-8625. The name is Concept Designs. The address is 12043 Washington Street. There's no suite, and it is Naperville, Illinois, with a zip code of 60540-4158. And since they've reported in the book or up above here in the schedule, January, February, March, we know that we should check that this is reporting for January, February, March, and then it told us that we had 8 employees. Line 2 says wages, tips, and other compensation. So that is going to be the total earnings for January, February, and March, that column that we added up here. Okay, so total earnings. So that was 35,640. Then it says to do the income tax withheld. That's the column that said federal income tax withheld for January through March. So that number was 2144. And again, only the employee is paying that amount. The employer withheld it and is paying it onwards. Then we go to all of the line 5A, 5B, 5C. So our taxable security wages, we're going to use that same number in both of these spots. Our total earnings for the entire quarter. And we're going to multiply times these rates. And again, 12.4 represents the employee portion and the employer portion. And I would get 4419.36. And then down here, for both the employee and employer portions of Medicare, I would get 1033.56. And then line 5D, I'm just going to add those two amounts together, the 44.19 and the 10.33, and I would get 54.52.92. And then we don't have any adjustments, so I'm going to say 0 here, because we do nothing weird in this class. We just keep it straightforward. So then it tells me to add lines 3, 5D, and subtract 60. So I'm still at 52.92. For line 5D, and then line 3 is 2144. So I'm going to add those two, subtract nothing, to get 7596.92. So that represents all the taxes for the employee portion of federal income tax, then the employee and employer for Social Security, and the employee and the employer for for Medicare. So then that number in this class, we're just going to copy down to line 8 and 10. So 8 and 10, because we don't have anything weird or adjustments going on all these other things like 7A, etc. So we would put zeros in those typically. The same number on line 10. And then again 11 would be a 0. Or sorry, not 11. 12 will end up being a 0, the line I'm on. So line 11 is the tricky one then to understand. It says total deposits, including prior quarter overpayments. So if you look again up above at your totals that you did, the total deposits are the money that I, as the employer, passed along to the federal government when I did the Form 941. And it shows that in January I gave them this much in federal income tax. So let's say for January, February, and March, and we said that number was $21.44. The employee's portion of Social Security was this. The employee's portion of Medicare was this. But what I deposited was their portion as well as mine, the employer's portion. So when I do deposits, I would take this $21.44 plus $22.09.68 plus $516.78, and here's the key, plus $22.09.68 again for the employer, plus $516.78 again for the employer portion of Medicare. So one of these, because it's only the employee, two of these, because employee and employer did it, two of these, because the employee and employer had to do it. That would be my total deposits. And if I added that, I would put that on line 11, and it is 7596.92. And what that's showing you is that what we computed up above based on earnings is the amount that I ultimately ended up giving the government, which is a good thing. So I'm going to go on down to line 13 because all that other stuff is just weird things that could happen. And I'm going to say add lines 11, 12A, and 12E. So the only thing is on line 11, so we're still at 7596.92. Going down further to fill out the rest of this form. On line 16, we're going to choose Illinois for our state abbreviation. And then we're going to say we were a monthly scheduled depositor because it told us in the directions, I believe, that we are. And then for the liability, I'm going to have to do for each month. So to do this for month 1, which would be January in this case. Again, if I go up here to the schedule for January, my liability was $698 plus $721.68 plus $168.78 plus the employer portions of those two things as well. So plus $721.68 again and $168.78. If I add up those 5 numbers, I would get down here and I would have my month 1 liability, which is $2478.92. And then I would do that for February, and I would get $2538.70. I'm going to go up there again to explain that. I would take 718 plus 737.80 plus 172.55 plus the employer again, so 737.80 plus 172.55. And that is how I would get month 2 of 2,538.7. And then for March, I would take 728 plus 750.20 plus 175.45 plus 750.20 plus 175.45. And if I did that for the month of March, what I would get would be 2579.30. And then I add all those 3 months up, and I would get 7596.92. And it said that that total must equal line 10, and that total is what we got on line 10 as well. So everything is good. So that is the form 941. The only real tricky part is make sure you pay attention to these headings to see if it's the employee piece or the employee and employer. But I have to pass along the employee's portions of these two things and that one, and then the employer's portion of these two, Social Security and Medicare. So that's just a big exercise in filling out a form, so just be precise and you should be fine.